What's going on, my friends? Welcome back to another video. So in this video, I actually want to talk to you guys about lenses. So I actually got an email from YouTube and they said that one of my most popular videos tends to be lenses. So thanks to you guys are helping me push content. You guys like it. You guys are commenting. You guys are subscribing, I hope. If not, you can subscribe to the channel. But I want to share with you guys all the lenses that I've owned over the years and why I own them today. Wife has made cookies, so you need to try them, right? She doesn't watch any of my videos anyway. Oh. Wow. I'm not saying it's good because my wife made them, but she doesn't watch any of my content anyway. But I gotta say, there's something that you really appreciate when your wife or your spouse or your partner decides to make cookies for you, because that is just the best thing in the world. Hold on. Anyway, let's get into the video. Let's go. So if you guys have been following the channel, thank you for doing so. But you guys know that I've been shooting a lot of different types of photography. I've been a wedding photographer for 16 years. I still shoot weddings. I also have a side of my business that shoots real estate. Over the years, I've kind of accumulated a lot of different glass. I've either bought glass, sold, traded. There's just kind of like this lens selection process that you go through when you start photography or when you pick up your very first camera. I'm hoping that this video can help shed some light on what gear that you guys might consider when you're searching, well, for gear. Let's start off with zoom lenses. The 1535 RF lens 2.8 is actually one of my very first RF, no, it's not my second, it's my second RF glass, but in any case, it is really a workhorse staples of a wide-angle lens. Back in the day with EF, you had to either choose an f4 with IS or you had to get 2.8. You had to choose one or the other, and what Canon has allowed us to do with these new mirrorless cameras is they've created lenses that offer you both 2.8 and image stabilization. When you start considering the prices of these RF glass, you know it's obviously getting more expensive, but when you also consider the fact that you're getting both image stabilization and 2.8, that's pretty cool. I use it for landscapes, videos. I love using it for wedding receptions because I love kind of getting into the action and shooting what's going on the dance floor. But more importantly, as I'm shooting more real estate, having a 15mm on my side is super helpful. Moving along, another zoom lens that I have is the 70-200. So I've talked about this lens. This is the second RF lens that I've owned, and it is absolutely an incredible beast. I mean, look at this thing. I love this. I love the tech that has gone into this lens and how compact it is. I don't like the throw. That is the one downside I don't like about this lens. I've talked about this in my other video regarding this lens. Having something this compact that goes from 70 to 200 is a blessing. The 70-200 is a bread and butter lens if you're a wedding or portrait photographer. Now, most of you guys watching this be like, wait, I have the 85 for that. 85 is the focal length that everyone talks about for, portraits and weddings. There are things that you can do with the 70-200 that you can't do with the 85, such as zooming out to 200 and shooting at 2.8. The compression of that particular focal length is incredible, and it's not something you can replicate or produce with an 85 1.2. If you guys are shooting cityscapes and landscapes, or even a hike, having the range of 70 to 200 is also an amazing thing to have in your kit, because there are times where you can't get, or you need to kind of shoot details of, let's just say, the mountainside or the fog that's in front of the mountains or something like this, and you want to kind of shoot a detail of whatever landscape that you're working with, and you just can't have that reach. When we think landscapes, we think wide, but there's a gray area where you need to kind of shoot tight to get details. At that focal range of 70 to 200, having image stabilization is huge. My very first telephoto lens was an f4 70 to 200 without IS. I didn't have IS. I couldn't afford it. That was like my telephoto lens for weddings, and it was great because you didn't really necessarily need image stabilization when you were shooting people so much, quote unquote. That is, unless you go into a low light scenario where you're inside a church and you're like, oh, I need to like kill my shutter speed to get more ambient light in. And then that's where image stabilization kicks in, because there's not that much movement in a church. So you can actually drop down your shutter speed quite a bit and compensate that with image stabilization without racking up your ISO. Does that even make sense? I think what I said makes sense. I'm saying it too fast, maybe. You know what I mean. Moving on to the next lens, the 24-105. This lens right here is why I'm actually making this video, because you guys loved this video that I made about this lens. I call it the most versatile lens in almost anyone's camera bag. If you guys to go travel and you needed a lens, this would be the one lens to take. If you don't like to carry tons of camera gear and 15 lenses and you have 3 kids and you're going about, you're not carrying all of that. Like you're carrying this, the 24-105. If you guys want more information about this lens, I'll leave a link somewhere here. You guys can go check out that video. Let's go into prime lenses. If you guys are familiar with the channel, you guys know I'm heavy on prime lenses. Most weddings, I'm rocking a 35, 50, 85, but let's go and start with the 35. The Canon EF 35mm 1.4 is my third prime lens that I've ever owned. I love that lens so much. In fact, it recently came back from Canon to repair, and the bill was like close to 450 bucks. I was like, yo, at that price, I could just probably buy a new lens. But I did it. I went over to Canon, had the 35 fixed. It works like new. I love that lens. Let's get into the details. The 35mm is actually one of the most classic lenses that I use when I'm shooting wedding bride prep. The 35mm 1.4 has something very special about that lens. There's sort of a connection where I'm actively with them, talking with them, walking with them, and that 1.4 at a wide angle lens such as 35 still has that depth character. I can still isolate the subject from the background at 1.4 even though it is a pretty wide lens. It has no distortion and it's perfect for that. The Canon 50mm. I've talked about this lens and I actually want to do a dedicated video about this lens because the 50mm lens is my most used lens at any given wedding. In fact, it's starting to become my most used lens in almost anything. It's kind of like a default lens for me. You can get full-length portraits, you can get tight portraits, you can get half-length portraits. I love it. This is the EF version of it. I have no need to pick up the RF, although it is super tempting. There's something very vintage about the image characteristics that it comes with. A big percentage of the wedding day, this 50mm is glued onto one of my camera bodies. That leaves us with the best of the best if you wanted to do portraits. Now that would be this guy right here. The Canon 85 1.2, this is the version 2. There is just, oh, that is so dirty, man. That is disgusting, Rick. Look at this. This is just, it's gonna be caught on, but that is just, I mean, there's a layer of filth in there and I should really take care of that. I will, I promise. The 85mm 1.2 L. This is like the lens that everyone needed to get when it came out. Like, it's the most magical portrait lens. You can destroy any background in any given situation and you're left with nothing but just smooth butter, beautiful 3D, bokeh-licious. And I'll be honest, when I first picked up that lens, I shot everything at 1.2. And then when you go into post, you realize, oh, well, the groom's not in focus, or the bride's not in focus. And you're like, but that's the lens that everyone's talking about. That's like the lens that everyone is like, yo, that's the portrait lens to pick. At 1.2, you need to be very, very, very careful at where you're positioning your couples when you're using this lens. I don't even recommend it for family portraits. I much prefer to shoot the 7200 to have options because I don't really shoot anything below 3.2 or 3.5 when I'm shooting family portraits. That's it. That's all I have for you guys. If you guys have been watching this video up until now, I really appreciate your viewership. Without you guys, I wouldn't know what kind of videos to create. And if you guys found this video helpful, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe, hit that notification bell for future videos. But also let me know in the comments down below, what are you guys rocking in terms of kit? I would love to know, because gear is fun, gear is cool, but gear is not everything. I think you guys would agree. I'll see you guys in the next video. I need to clean my lenses, man. I need to clean them more often. They're so friggin' dirty.